Hi, Grandpa D's Worm Farm here. Today I'm going to do some screening. But first I'd like to show you something that I picked up from Will Allen in his Grow Farm nursery in Chicago. What he's done is he takes his bins and he separates the worms by taking a screen, putting the screen on top of his bin, adding some food on top and letting it sit for a few days, and then lifts up the screen where all the worms have come up through the screen into the new food, and that's how he separates the worms from a lot of his castings. Now I'm going to try that method for the first time because what's been happening with me is when I go to put my worms through the screener, I get a lot of worms, and what I'm trying to do is eliminate some of those worms from going through the screener. And that is my screener. Just to give you a little idea how it works, there's a chute that goes on the screen right here, which I took off so you can have a better idea of how it works. I have a motor down at the bottom, as you can see down in there, which is a variable speed, which is hooked up to the screener. Now what I do is I take the chute, just think of it as a scoop for French fries, like at McDonald's, where I would put a bucket of material on the chute and I would push it through the screen, down here through the screen. And this is my controller down here, which I would take and I turn it to change the speed on the screen. I can go really fast depending on how thick the material is, or I can slow it down. All the material castings will fall through the screen into these buckets, and down the very end I have some bigger buckets which will catch the material that has not been eaten by the worms yet. It doesn't do a real good job at separating the worms, but it's okay. Just to give you a little idea of the scoop. The scoop looks a little something like this, and how it gets attached is by these fins that stick out right here, and they go up into the slots, and then once that's attached, I also put a couple of blocks underneath bracing, because once I dump the load of castings in there, it's probably about 25 pounds of weight that's sitting on that. And that's what the screener looks like fully assembled. I just put the product on there. This is all done by hand too, so what I wind up doing is I separate any sticks or any material that I don't really want to go through the screener. And then once it gets done going through, I take the gray bins down at the very end and I transfer them back into the bins along with the worms, and I add fresh food to it, and I let them sit for another couple of months to 2.5 months, and then I start the process all over again. Just to give you an idea. This is something that I've started to do for the very first time. I'm hoping it will work out. I previously mentioned that I saw this done at Will Allen's Grow Farm in Chicago, and how he separates his worms from his bin before he screens them out. And let me see if you can see this. See how many worms? There's a lot of worms in there. A lot of the worms come up through the screen. And then I will take this screen, pick it up, and put it into one of my other bins, so these worms do not have to go through the screening process. The less worms I have go through it, the better off.